and I sell somebody across for $4, and I work slowly every day. And then it's crazy to look at you because you guys look young to me right now. To look at your faces and realize I was already doing baseball card shows for real and making that kind of money. What's crazy is you have a much bigger advantage over me. You do actually have Instagram. You do actually have Twitch. You do actually have YouTube. You have that. I didn't. And so I sit and look at you. I laugh when people think like that you're so blessed to sneak into this little education. That's great and that's right. And a lot of the human principles and friendship and stuff of that nature. Ted's right. I promise you something right now, and this is going off the script again. You actually friendship with the kid to the left and right of you is going to matter a lot more when you're older than the reading level you're at, or if you learn calculus eventually. That's just life. That's how I see life. Now, that's for me, because I was self-aware, because I wasn't a good student, and could... The internet is a place where you can make $54,000 a year just talking about peanut butter. This is important, guys. You got more perspective. What's different about entrepreneurship and rap and sports is when you say you're their perspective on what's actually going on. Can I convince one of you that nobody gives about your headaches and problems, and when you complain, you're just taking minutes off the board and energy off the board from doing something about it? Literally, I am fascinated by the inability to be held accountable. I am fascinated that you actually are coming up and spending energy and trying why you're not successful. I mean, it's super interesting to me. I read and read and read. Outside of watching New York Jets football, and now the Knicks are starting to maybe try to do something, so a little Knicks basketball, like, I get nothing but your comments. And I get into rabbit holes. You know, on Wikipedia or YouTube, you start off watching. The biggest thing that I want to make sure that everybody else, more than anything, if, you know, I just had a really fun strategy session with a bunch of people, and when I think about what it was that we just talked about for the last couple hours, is the fact of the matter is I truly believe that every single person here today, including myself, are grossly underestimating how special today is, how special this era of internet at maturity is, how special the opportunity is. What is remarkable to me this morning is that there is never, and I mean this, if you are somebody who watches cable news all day, you may not agree with me, but it is my absolute deep belief that this is the greatest era to be alive, human race. And I'll tell you why. This internet thing, it's bigger than you think. This internet thing, when you're old, when our great-great-grandkids judge us and how we navigated through this era, this internet thing is a much bigger deal than we've been able to comprehend. The internet, not Facebook, social media, not Instagram, not podcasting. The internet is the single biggest invention that has ever happened to the human race, and we, being in it, first couple decades of it, are struggling to understand how big of a deal it is. What I am completely blown away by is that there is nobody, and I mean nobody, who is a gamer to the game anymore. What is amazing to me is that our great-great-grandparents, our great-grandparents, and our grandparents would laugh at the they cry about. The amount of people that get upset that Instagram and Facebook changed their algorithm and cry about it, ludicrous. It's free. Facebook and Instagram are free. And we sit and cry about the change in now. Here's where I'm at. For this entire room, the one thing that connects all of us, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work somewhere, whether you're thrilled, whether you're devastated, the one thing that all of us is that for us to take the step in what we're trying to achieve, whether it's financial, whether it's legacy, whatever it may be, the one thing that connects us is we with is understanding that attention is just like real estate. And that attention is the gateway drug to everything you want, period. Before you can tell me how great you are, how awesome what you're selling is, you need my attention. Before you can tell me any, need my attention. What everybody in this room needs to wrap their head around is that this device owns the attention of our society. You may be upset about it. You might be sad that when you go out aren't talking to each other. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't change the fact that this has the attention. And if you are sitting in this room today and you have not figured out put written words, audio, or video into the platforms that sit on top of this, you are fundamentally irrelevant. And so when you think about sitting here and standing here, look, I have no interest in inspiring you for an hour and getting you pumped, and then next Thursday you talk about it. That's not interesting to me. I'll be very frank, even with all these faces in the audience, I'm looking for one person who understands that this is such a remarkable time and to go harder at it. Let me tell you the thing that upset me most in my intro. I'm extremely proud, maybe more than anything, that I went into my family business and my family business for my family. I'm proud. I love when people try to razz on me. Easy for you. You were handed a $3 million when they don't know my story. What I was handed was my dad had a liquor store doing $3 million a year on 10% profit, and what I did was work my face off 17 hours a day from 22 to 34, building my dad's business for my dad and my mom, and at 34 years old, I left Wine Library day to day with 0% equity in Wine Library and no money in my bank. That's what I did. I'm proud. You know, if you're a child of an immigrant or great parents, nothing is better than settling the score with your parents. So that's like, I can't zoom in, but the goosebumps, can you just confirm this? Like real goosebumps. The best. Meanwhile, when the intro came up, the gentleman said he grew his dad's business from 4 to 60 million. True. Nice, solid accomplishment. Also, my greatest regret. If I could do it again, business-wise, I would have built Wine Library from a $4 to a $250 million business at that same time. Let me tell you why, and why it's the only thing you need to pay attention to in my entire talk. Let me break this down. Get your attention up right now. I don't know if you like taking notes. I don't know how you like to consume it, but I promise you to explain for the next 3 minutes is the game right now. I built my dad's business from $4 to $60 million with no money. The business was doing $4 million, 400,000 before expenses. We literally had no money, right? You pay people, you pay your rent, like nothing. My first year marketing budget in building Wine Library was $14,000 for the year in marketing. I was able to build it in such a big way for 3 core reasons. In 1996, nobody had a website. That was a good idea. Number 2, I started an newsletter. For the youngsters in here, it's hard to understand, but you have to understand, people didn't even know their own email when they would come into the wine store. I'd ask them, do you want to be on the email list? They'd be like, yeah. I'm like, what's your email? They're like, AOL@yahoo.com. I'm like, no. Like, this was early, but I started an email newsletter. How many people here have done email marketing in their career? Raise your hand. I had 91% open rates on my email newsletter in 1997 and 8. Why? Not because it was such good content. All it said was buy this or low. It was because nobody else was emailing, and I bought that real estate cheap because nobody else was doing it. And then the final point of why I really exploded my business was the day that Google AdWords came out. I bought Google AdWords for my business. So I was the first result for wine and Cabernet and Napa Valley. And while everybody else was doing direct mail and advertising in magazines and radio, I was winning, which went on to become Google. Got it? Let me now explain to you the number one mistake every person in this audience is making right now, including me, who's supposed to be fancy at this. Every person in this place is not producing enough content for social media and is not spending enough money on social media ads. Every person in here is not producing content and not spending enough ad money on social media, because you have to understand what's about to happen. Let me explain it real simple. Right now, buying ads on Instagram and Facebook, which is something everybody's doing at scale. And please, don't be that person that has run Facebook and Instagram ads and not gotten results and deemed it not working. The ROI of basketball to me is zero. The ROI of basketball to LeBron is billions of dollars. If you have not been, how many people here, and let's be honest with each other, how many people here have run Facebook or Instagram ads and it worked? Raise your hand. Oh, actually, stand up. I want everybody to see this. Don't be lazy. Do this for everybody. Watch this. Keep going. Don't sit down yet. Everybody look around. All people suck. I'm kidding. Sit down. Guys, please understand this. Everybody that stood up, and I'm not joking, you haven't made Instagram and Facebook ads work for you because you either hired somebody who's not good at it or you're not good at it. Debate is not a debate. They work, and they work so well that it's scary. So scary that the founder has to sit in front of Congress. Seriously, I'm laughing at people. People go out to dinner with me, old CEOs, and yell at me for the first 30 minutes that Facebook's killing our democracy, and then the next 30 minutes tell me that it doesn't sell. Everybody's so scared of it, yet you don't think it works to sell. Guys, this is the most powerful ad product we have seen since the early days of television commercials. So, when I see that many people stand, please get educated. Please, and you have to understand why it's so awesome. You can run $25 and $50 at a time to get a sense of if it's working. Also, the biggest mistake in this room is choose between the business of branding and selling. The number one basic issue in business right now that I've been blown away by, because it came natural to me, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, people are confusing branding and selling. The amount of people that just stood up that it didn't work for, they spent money to make a transaction, it didn't happen, they stood up and said it didn't work. What they don't realize is, first of all, creative is the variable. If I stand up here today, I've got all of your attention, that's a victory. If this keynote sucks, I've accomplished nothing. I've accomplished negative impact. Don't leave here disappointed of like, he's not that good live, he's stupid, I lost. This was a waste of time. That's just like an ad. You can get in front of me at a good price, but if you're trying to sell me too hard and you come off like a douchebag, you've lost. If you haven't convinced me why your banana jelly is better than some of it come from. This is banana jelly. Somebody's gonna start a banana jelly company here, I know it. If you haven't convinced me that your banana jelly is better than others' banana jelly, then you're not gonna buy it. Please understand this. Let me break it down very simply. It's why I set it up as the most important thing. Everybody here needs to spend money, whether you're a lawyer, financial advisor, sports trainer, nutritionist, you have a concrete, if your company paves people's driveways, you need to run Facebook and Instagram ads. It is the most underpriced attention in our society. And let me tell you why. As I stand here today and regret not spending more money on Google AdWords, everybody in here will regret. And I promise you, if nothing else, I'm being very selfish right now in this advice. I'm being very selfish. I'm making a very big deal that you're not spending enough money in this platform, because I want you to remember when you don't spend enough money in this platform and you actually have your eureka moment and realize how right I was. I want you to remember I should have listened to Gary Vee in Florida. Right now, Instagram ads run between $3 and $8 CPMs. Between $3 and $8, you can get in front of 1,000 people's screens. Not 1,000 see it. You know how you roll through your screen. Over the next 5 years, biggest companies in the world, like Nike, and BMW, and IBM, when they really realize how bad television commercials are and how good this is, they're going to pour their money in. But it's going to happen. That happened to me on Google. I used to buy the word wine and Cabernet and Pinot Noir for 5 cents a click. Now it's $4 and $11 and $18 a click. That at the same token, the way the ads work is going to decline. In the beginning, when I was running Facebook and Instagram 3 years ago, it did better than it does now because you're getting more now and you're starting to tune in. Open rates on email went from 90% to 30%. This is one big game of cops and robbers. This is one big game of cat and mouse. When everybody here figures out that they should be doing, everybody does it, it becomes more noise, and that's the game. Right now, what you're doing with your allocation of content and ad spend on Facebook and Instagram is the same thing that real estate. When somebody knows they need to buy or debated to buy something in a hot up-and-coming area, they don't. Their friends did. It went up. It happened. Then they get another chance to invest for $150,000 more, but because they up and passed at $150,000 less, they say no again. 6 months later, it keeps blowing up. Now it's 100,000. Now you're like, again, because you passed twice. This is the story of Uber for me. I passed on Uber's angel round twice. Twice. How many people read or have Crush It, my first book? If you go back and look at it, I acknowledge in the acknowledgments, I thank my family and one random person, Travis, the co-founder of Uber. That's it. I passed on one of my best business friends' startup twice at a $4 million valuation. And he was one of my best buds, and it went on to become Uber. I was writing $25,000 and $50,000 checks back then. If I wrote one of my normal checks back then into Uber, that investment would have paid me $400 million. I'm not sad. I'm not. I'm being dead serious. I don't give about the money. I give about the freedom of playing the game. Understand, if you're a true red entrepreneur audience, you're not in it for the money. You're in it for the game. I actually love that I passed on Uber twice. I'm being serious. The quell for me in 5 minutes when I hang with somebody, if they're true bred or if they're not, is are they in it for the game or do they want to buy a watch? So, here's the story of Uber though. I used to pass on investments, they would blow up a little bit, and then I wouldn't invest again because I was salty because I passed on it at 4, and now I didn't want to put money at 60. I'd learned that lesson, and thank God, because when Uber came back around, I did invest in it. Not as early and as crazy, but I made a lot of money and made the right decision because I left my emotion out of the table. Got it? A lot of you are not going on social media harder because some of your friends have more followers and you don't have the humility to start now and start at a low base. You're not doing it because you tried it, not worked in the past, and you don't get it. What is happening right now is very simple. Attention is the only thing that matters for anything you try to do. There's a reason. I was born in the Soviet Union. And last night I hung out with a bunch of great people from Venezuela, right? This is actually fun. Who's from Chicago? Who's from Sweden? This is, forget it. Who's from Texas? Jersey? Yeah. All right. Anyway. Belarus. Grandpa? My friends, I have very little to say. Life is basic. 99% of this audience is doing because they value somebody else's opinion more than their own. If I sent all of you one by one, I could figure out every dumb thing you're doing and trace it back to you're doing it to impress somebody or to prove somebody wrong. It's the biggest mistake you can make, and if you leave here with anything, the second you can get in here and stop worrying about the judgment of others, the second it starts actually happening. That gets even harder in today's new world of living publicly. It's true. Now, I like the motivation of the chip on the shoulder. I love that I post my report card and I was ranked 243 out of 254 in my entire class. And I find it really fun and exciting that my mission to create more wealth and success than the rest of my class combined. But that shouldn't be the reason you do things, right? And so there's a couple things that I want to break through in this meeting. Number one is, why do you do what you do? Because way too many people are doing it from a place of defense. And I'm trying to figure out every day how to produce content or have a conversation of getting you for yourself. For yourself. How many people saw Rocky 4? War, the Russian one. Super interesting. It has nothing to do with the fact that I was born in Belarus and former Soviet Union. It's a very different reason why I'm in. In the end of that movie, the most interesting part is what Drago says after he loses. Rocky wins, and then they take the mic, and, Rocky does the whole, we can be friends, which worked for a few minutes. But what was way more important is what Drago said, which is he said, I didn't fight Rocky for this country. I fought him for myself. And I was a young kid when that movie came out, and it is forever. Some of you consume my content and know I talk a lot about, I don't care what you think about my losses. My L is my L. In the session I just had, we were talking about it, I was like, look, because I think an Instagram is so underpriced and I want you to pour money into it, I'm trying to convince people to